Hi guys, and welcome into my new F1 channel. So I thought I'd do this because I do really enjoy F1. I'm a huge F1 fan, and I thought we would kick straight off with my F1 2022 driver predictions. Now I know a lot of people have done these before. There hasn't been too many outlandish predictions, but I am going to come in with some here, so stay tuned for who I think will be where. Now we're going to start with the teams who I don't think will be changing their driver lineup, and the first one is going to be Ferrari. Now, I see no reason to change Charles Leclerc. He's definitely one of the most talented drivers on the grid and proved himself quite well last year and definitely in 2019 when he won a few races and got many pole positions. So there's no reason for him to change. Carlos Sainz is just coming into the team and he's got a decent length contract, so I don't see any changes there. He's also proved himself in a midfield team, and it would be nice to see him at the front end of the grid, so hopefully we do get the three top teams fighting once again. The second team I don't think is going to change is going to be Alfa Romeo. I think Giovinazzi's coming into his own. He's started to push Kimi a lot more in qualifying and in races. Performance is pretty equal, and I think he's starting to give a good amount to that seat and to that team. As for Raikkonen, he does this as a hobby, as he likes to mention quite a bit. I don't see him retiring anytime soon because the age doesn't seem to be affecting him, and as long as he's still enjoying it and still being competitive, then I think he'll stay in the game. Now, the Alfa Romeo car this year is definitely competitive. I would say it's probably 6th or 7th on the grid, so there's no reason for him to retire, and he may as well roll the dice and see whether he can get some performance with a regulation change next year. I think it's going to stay the same. It's going to be Haas. As long as Mick Schumacher's in F1, he's a huge cash cow and a big pull for sponsors. Therefore, there'd be no reason to get rid of him. Now, I hear what people would say about bringing in someone like Hülkenberg, who already has proven F1 experience. And to be honest, Mick Schumacher won an F2 grid that I didn't think was that loaded. But at the same time, it's Mick Schumacher. The name itself carries a lot of weight, and therefore I can't see them getting rid of him. As for Mazepin, that depends on his actions on track and off track. If he performs absolutely poorly all season and doesn't pick up any points or not even get close to the points, then they might possibly get rid of him. But as for now, he brings in a lot of sponsorship, and I feel like this is something that is going to be absolutely critical if Haas finish bottom of the constructors. So I don't see them get rid of Mazepin, and I think that'll be the lineup next year. Another one I think is going to stay the same is Red Bull. I think they're going to want to give Yuki Tsunoda at least one more year in that AlphaTauri seat. So I do think they'll stick with a lineup of Perez and of Verstappen. I can't see Verstappen going to Mercedes anytime soon because I don't think Hamilton will go. But I do think Perez is going to have to step up his game and at least win one or two races if he's to keep that seat, because Helmut Marko will not wait about for anyone. And to be honest, he could easily just be a place marker waiting for Yuki Tsunoda to come through for the regulation change. So Perez has to be on his game, otherwise he will get replaced next year. I have no doubt of that. But for me, he's a good enough driver. He's proved it in the Racing Point car last year that he can win races with a midfield car. So I don't see why he can't win a race with a Red Bull car. I think McLaren's lineup next year is going to be Lando Norris and George Russell. This is going to shock a few people because Daniel Ricciardo has got a multiple-year contract. But where is he going to go? Well, you'll have to wait and see. I think, though, Lando Norris and George Russell will be at McLaren. And the reasons for this is Mercedes don't take gambles on youths. If they could take an experienced driver, they probably would. Now, I do think they'll get rid of Valtteri Bottas, but that's to come later on in the video. But I think George Russell will be going to McLaren. It would be a step up from Williams and would give him a chance to prove himself for 1 or 2 years even, and then potentially get himself into a big team. We've only ever seen him at the Sakhir Grand Prix. Now, I know a lot of people would say that he would have won that race, and he definitely would have, had the incidents not happened and it wasn't his fault. But I just don't see Mercedes taking that jump when they could get an experienced driver in that car. Therefore, McLaren seems like the perfect move for him. As for Lando Norris, he's developing every year. The two of them together will be a brilliant partnership, can both push each other, and I think that will be a fantastic driver lineup for 2022. The next team, I think Alpine are going to take on Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri. So I think Esteban Ocon will lose his seat in F1 entirely and probably never get back into the sport. I just don't think he's proved enough last year that he was deserving of this seat for 2022 when the regulation change comes. And if Piastri wins the F2 championship, I think they'll be hard pushed not to put him in the Alpine car. I don't see Alonso going anywhere because he's taken a Hail Mary approach and is wanting to see what happens with the regulation change. Can he get in a car that can win races? As for Ocon, I just don't think he's going to do enough this year that will warrant keeping that seat. So Piastri will come in there, and I think it will be Alonso and Piastri next year. I've said that George Russell isn't going to be in the Mercedes, and I don't think Valtteri Bottas will. Who is going to be in that second Mercedes seat? Well, I think this is going to go to Daniel Ricciardo because I don't think Mercedes are going to take the jump to a youngster. He's a proven race winner. He's been around the game for a very long time. And he can deliver on the day. He's proven it in so many races now that when the going gets tough, Daniel Ricciardo can pull out a good result from nowhere. It would be a brilliant championship fight if Lewis Hamilton were to be fighting Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen in 2022, but I just think it gives Mercedes that stability that they won't lose the Constructors' Championship because they've got two experienced pilots in the car. Next team that we're going to look at is AlphaTauri, and I do think there's going to be a change to this driver lineup. I think Pierre Gasly's going to leave, so I think it'll be Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson being promoted from F2. He's another one who's going to be fighting for the championship this year. He's shown me some really good signs in all of the junior categories, and I think if he gets the step up to F1, he could really push himself and try and get into that Red Bull seat. I think it'll be a one-year shootout between Tsunoda and Lawson, and whoever impresses them the most will replace Perez in 2023, but I can see this being the lineup next year. I do think Red Bull will probably want to give Yuki Tsunoda one more year if Perez impresses in the main team, but if not, Tsunoda will be already moved up and there may be another change here. But for me, this is going to be the lineup next year. We're going to move to Aston Martin. Now, I don't think Lance Stroll's going to lose this seat. I think that's quite a given, but I do think Sebastian Vettel will retire at the end of the year if he is not forced from the team. Currently, I think his performances have been absolutely shocking. I'm not going to discredit his performances in the past. From 2010 to 2013, when I first started watching F1, he was the best driver in the world by far. But I think he's been pegged back now, and to be honest, he's outside the top 10 for me on current form, and I just don't see how we keep that seat. Lawrence Stroll's a businessman, and although it was a brilliant market employ to get in a 4-time world champion to the car, if he doesn't pick up his performances, why would they keep him? So I think the second seat will actually go to Valtteri Bottas, who will be let go by Mercedes. He's still got a lot to offer in F1, he's not that old, and he has still got some race wins in him, but I just don't see him staying on the Mercedes team because he's not as good as the best drivers on the grid. He's a top-end midfield driver, and I think that's where he's going to slot in, so I see him going to Aston Martin with quite a good driver lineup there because Stroll's improving all the time, but I think Vettel will retire or be forced out the team by Lawrence Stroll. That leaves Williams, and I do think Latifi will stay at Williams because of the money that he brings to the team. Obviously, Russell's going to be going off to McLaren if my predictions were to come true, so who will be in the second seat? I think it's going to be Pierre Gasly because I think it would be too harsh to leave him out of F1. He's a brilliant developing driver. He's done really well in the midfield team, but obviously we can't forget that his Red Bull year was absolutely terrible. So I think a step to Williams would probably be good for him, and they are going to be back on the up. They're starting to improve already. Hopefully they can get themselves back into the midfield fight, and with a huge shake-up in regulations, I see no reason why that can't happen. So it probably would be quite a good move for Pierre Gasly, but I see these two linking up for next year. Bonus for you is I think there going to be 11 teams on the F1 grid next year because there is rumours that Panthera Team Asia will join the grid. Now if they were to, I could see them going for an approach where they take two Asian drivers on, and who better to take on than two of the best F2 drivers on the grid, Guan Yu Zhou and Jehan Daruvala. Both are impressing and both have been on the podium already this year, so I see no reason why they'd be too expensive for the teams to bring on, and I'm not sure how much financial backing they actually bring, but both drivers would definitely drive up the Asian interest in the F1 market, so I could see that happening, but it would be brilliant if you could get 22 drivers on the grid and give a couple more drivers the chance of making it to F1, because right now, there's drivers that have won the F2 Championship or finished second that haven't even been promoted, and unfortunately that is the name of the game, but it would be nice to see another 2 slots open to some more drivers to get in. Completes my F1 driver predictions for 2022. I'll check back at the end of the year and we'll do a reaction video and we'll see how many I got right. I'm sure a lot of you won't agree with some of my predictions because they are a bit outlandish, but you know, this is what we've got to do. F1 is a bit silly at times and sometimes there is some silly transfers. So we'll see how many I got right. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop a subscribe on the channel for the more content that's coming in the next couple of weeks, and I will see you in the next one.